Yo, what's up, guys? It's Jack here, coming at you for Midwest Drug Education. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about DXM, which is basically a dissociative drug that is found in cough syrup and other cough suppressant products. So, the first thing I want to mention about DXM is that it's it either produces serotonin or upregulates serotonin in your body when you're under the influence of recreational doses. So if you are on an SSRI or an MAOI, then you shouldn't do this drug at all because of the risk of serotonin syndrome, which can be deadly. So some common brand names for products that contain only DXM are Robitussin, Delsum. Robocough is a new brand that came out a few years ago, which specializes in basically concentrated syrup and concentrated pills for basically recreational use of DXM. You also got Assured gels at dollar stores. I'm pretty sure you can find them at Dollar Tree. And you also got store brand syrup. So like CVS has their own gels and syrup. And I think maybe Walgreens and other pharmacies have their own store brand DXM products too. Recreational use of DXM is pretty unique because it's one of the only drugs that is separated into different plateaus of intensity. So you got your first plateau, which is not very intense at all. It's kind of described as a drunk feeling or a moderately drunk feeling. The effects you feel in the first plateau are usually increased music appreciation. You usually do feel a little bit of euphoria, maybe not even euphoria, maybe just increase in your mood, maybe you switch moods or something. And you're also going to feel a little bit stimulated, like you had just taken a small dose of a moderately stimulative drug. But it is a unique style of stimulation. It notably lacks anxiety, which is a good thing. So after the first plateau comes the second plateau, which is actually much more intense than the first plat. It's more sedating rather than stimulating. And, euphoria, you're going to experience a lot greater degree of euphoria. But you're also going to have a pretty heavy body load. And what I mean by body load, using my own personal experience on second plateau trips, you're going to feel your body load is going to be very heavy. You're going to feel very heavy and you're going to feel pretty dizzy and it's going to be uncomfortable to move. If you're sitting up when you're tripping on second plat, you're probably going to want to lie down just because that makes the body high much more pleasurable in my opinion. Also on the second plateau is where robo walking comes into play, which is basically just a change in your gait. So it looks like you're basically walking on like eggshells, or it's just basically you have a very hard time walking around. Dissociative geometry may also come into play. It's usually going to be mainly closed-eyed visuals, and they're going to be really faint. They're going to be dark, kind of like grayish to whitish to bluish. At least that's in my personal experience. Sometimes the geometry I would see during my trips would look kind of like pencil drawn as well. Second plat is also where the dissociation starts coming into play. You may feel like your mind is being slowed down. I've heard people say like they feel like they're in a video game, and that they're that they're playing themselves. in, like on in a video game. The last thing I wanted to mention about the second plat is there being a chance for nausea and vomiting. The last time I did a second plat trip, which was like 2 days ago, I vomited during the come up. But you know, a lot of people who trip on Robitussin and Delsum and all these other DXM containing products, um, just just deal with it. You know, just deal with it as a part of tripping. You know, they call it the purging process, and they treat it as kind of sacred, because at least in my personal experience, as well as other people who can back me up on this, they'll say that they have better trips if they vomit before, you know, it kicks in. So moving on to the third plat, I've never actually done the third plat before, um, so this is just all information I've learned from research. But the third plat is very intense when compared to the second plat. So um, you know, if you're not already experienced with third plat trips, you should work your way up to it, because this is when the psychedelic effects of DXM really take hold. You experience solid, you know, dissociative geometry. You can experience solid internal hallucinations, kind of like dreaming. And you can also experience, for some unlucky people, you can experience some external hallucinations. Um, so, like with open-eyed hallucinations, similar to DPH, or diphenhydramine, which is a deliriant. It's also worth noting on third plat, that there is a chance of experiencing dysphoria instead of euphoria. Um, but the thing is, you don't really know if that's going to happen, because it kind of happens randomly. There is a chance that you will experience a pretty heavy afterglow, which is basically the opposite of a hangover. You feel, you know, euphoric and light on your feet and bouncing and positive and ready to go, man. But yeah, I do have to caution anyone um, wanting to go on a third plat trip, to just be aware that it can turn bad. Although most trips don't, um, a third plat trip has a extremely higher chance of turning bad than a second or first plat. So now, moving on to the fourth plat, which surprisingly isn't the highest you can go, but we'll get to that later. So the fourth plat has all the effects of the third plat, but with greater intensity. And there's also a pretty good chance you're gonna experience complete dissociation. So you're gonna be in the equivalent of a K-hole, which is basically like holes, spaces, and voids alongside structures. You're probably not going to be able to move around very much. And to be honest, there's not really any reason to do this high of a dose. You can pretty much achieve a fourth plat by doing a third plat. So there's really no need to you know, expose your body to this high of a dose of DXM at one time. You shouldn't do this. You should not do a fourth plat dose. Plateau Sigma is basically just DXM psychosis. Just to be clear, this is not a trip that you want to go on. Like, this is a trip that you're not going to remember any of. You're not going to be in control of your actions, and you won't gain any sort of, you know, purpose from doing this. There's no point in doing this high of a dose. But you know, DXM gets a bad name when people, you know, stupid kids take, you know, 1,000 milligrams for the first time and think they're gonna have like a nice you know, mild trip because it's an OTC drug that you can buy at the grocery store, you know. So just be safe, be smart, and Go State.